So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can start. I want to thank all of you for being here because it's the end of the day. I guess it's been a very busy day for all of you. And yes, it's a panel with, we are many here. We have prepared something that I hope will be of interest to you. At least it's a prestigious company. It's Scentmate by Firmenich, and we've been preparing. And yes, you may ask questions at the end. We try and keep it in this 1 hour for you, since it's the end of the day. But let's see how many questions you have. A little bit of presentation of who I am. So I'm here representing Essential. I guess you've heard of it by now. It's a pleasure for me to be here and work for Essential, even though there's a lot of other things happening throughout the year. But Essence is a big one. So Silvio Levi is behind Essential, like he's behind Essence. And yes, I've been in charge of marketing and purchasing in the past for a big specialty store, but now I have my own independent kind of work, and here I'm representing Essential, and my point is to really create content that would be of interest for a wide audience. But today, what it is about is quite exciting because we're going to talk about the future of perfumery seen by Scentmate by Firmenich. So there's a lot of innovation happening on the front of artificial intelligence, innovation strategies, and we're going to dive really inside their world because, of course, they are specialists on this matter. And, with major investments, so it's really an expert you have here for you. And the last piece before I introduce my guest is to say that we also have a client business case, which is nice because you're going to hear the real illustration and the voice of a client who tells you the real thing. It's not only the company saying, I can do this, it's the client who says, I've done this. So that's interesting. So I'll start really alphabetical order, nothing in terms of reference. I'll start with Andrea Badia here on my left, who is a compliant expert and coach for Scentmate. More than 10 years of experience in the cosmetic and fragrance industry. And really her passion is to translate complexity into an accessible form, so for us, or for me, in particular related to safety and compliance matter. Andrea's aim is to deliver information really that can be acted upon. So it has to be clear and it has to be acted upon to optimize business opportunities. Then I'm moving to the right-hand side with Simona. Simona Gentili is a marketing specialist in perfumery. She also has more than 10 years of experience. She has worked for a major Italian cosmetic company before joining Scentmate. So she's always on alert, listening to new trends and anticipating changes. So this is why she's here. It's going to be quite interesting to hear from her. Then I'm moving to Vito Polina, who is head of perfumery e-business at Firmenich. More than 20 years of experience in leading companies and business transformation. He guides Scentmate from the Firmenich side, and he really pushes forward innovative models, really pushing for success and steering the path. Last but not least, I mentioned to you there's a client. So here's Danielle Ryan, who is the founder and creative director of Rose. Rose is a brand that is actually participating at Essence, so you may see her upstairs. I give you the stand number, which is E33, for those who haven't visited yet. And yes, she founded her brand in 2013. And yeah, very diverse, very versatile person, grew up between Ireland, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, London. So in Dublin, she founded first the National Academy of Dramatic Art. So you can see she has a very rich profile. She's been acting in TV dramas and films, what I call a citizen of the arts. And now of course, we're going to drill in the perfume side of her, which is more recent, and we're going to hear how she created her perfumes. Okay, that's enough in terms of introductions. And I'm going to start on purpose with a question that's absolutely not serious, but just to have a little bit of fun to start. I want to say that I live in Geneva, I'm also French, and I'm so arrogant. I'm believing that, you know, perfume creation and innovation, you know, it's not in Barcelona. So tell us, Vito, why?
See, I start with the not serious question. Joke aside, thanks a lot for the question, and good evening to everyone, and thanks for being here. So, first of all, let me say one thing that is really the start of my answer, which is we love Geneva, we love grass, we love Paris. This is actually where we source most of the capabilities that we use at Firmenich, and most of the capabilities that we use as Scentmate. What we are trying to do as Scentmate is what I call a sort of a perfect wedding. We are trying to put together the magic of perfumery with its craftsmanship, innovation, creativity, ingredient, and the helpful technology. So to have these two words coming to life together and make our final products better, simpler, easier to access. And actually Barcelona, let me say, is the best place for that because it's the biggest digital hub in Europe, and it's also a country which is very well known for fragrance. Maybe some of you don't know, but Spain is the second exporter among the European countries in fragrance, and a lot of fragrance houses are based in Barcelona. So we love many places where Firmenich source things for and Scentmate use, and we love Barcelona. And then there is sun, there is the sea. I'm Sicilian, you know what I mean. There is
it sounds like a touristic brochure or speech for Barcelona. No, but seriously, it's a match. We got it, a perfect match. And maybe, Simona, you want to add another point?
Yes, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, first of all. So I really wanted to add on what Vito just said, and we call Barcelona a magnet in the sense that it really attracts so many talents. And one of the cores of Scentmate is to have a very multicultural team. So let's say that whenever we propose, you know, to join our team, when we say we are based in Barcelona, everybody is really happy to join. And in fact, our team has like 30 different cultures, and this adds a lot, you know, in market knowledge or even on the inspiration, on the creativity of fragrances. We have so much exchanges within ourselves. So that's a big plus of Barcelona. And of course, you know, you're all invited to come and visit us whenever you want.
So I'm going to say Scentmate is sunny side to the double S. So now I'm moving on to the first serious question, which is, and I'm going to talk to you, Andrea, is really what, if you have to summarize it for our audience, what would you say is the approach of Scentmate to innovation?
Thanks a lot for this one. Yeah, we've been doing something super special at Scentmate, which is really creating a very innovative fragrance house that is aiming at the end to bring the best of perfumery at your fingertips. How do we do that? Basically, by bringing the best from two worlds. On the one side, being by Firmenich allows us to have this access to best-in-class ingredients, but also to more than 125 years of craftsmanship, also a lot of innovations that are really anchored in the market with very well-known research partners and universities. All this powered by Scentmate, so really anchored in this digitalization, in this technology that really allows us to bring all these capabilities accessible from all the kinds of customers. So from very big to very small clients, no problem at all. We aim to really help them to position their fragrances with the right fit in the market. How do we do that? That's also a key question. With the help of artificial intelligence, that is really helping us to enhance this relationship between ingredients and consumers' preference data. So really knowing where and how do we need to make things so our clients can win in their markets. And just to finish, to give an example of this innovation, in Scentmate, we really capitalize a lot on Firmenich best innovations. That's why, for example, we have Emotions, a fragrance technology that is able to elicit the desired feelings in the end customer. So something super, super interesting that we are able here also to bring to, from big to small customers, so accessible for everyone.
Let me add that this is really what we believe at Firmenich. The future of perfumery is bright and full of opportunities. Technologies, innovation are just tools, ways to make this opportunity come to life bigger and quicker. This is the way we see technology and innovation, including artificial intelligence, which is not the only one, at Firmenich. People are always at the center. The center is the craftsmanship and the creativity of our people and our customer. Technology is there to help, to make our work simpler and better, and the outcome for our customer better, simpler, quicker. This is what we are trying to do, and this is what we will continue to do to really improve the life on each and every customer we serve.
So just to take that point, I know, Simona, you want to have a little bit more information on how you tailor-made and, yes, keep the customer at the center of the process.
Yes. So we hear about this customer-centric way of creating fragrances, and we wanted really to explain a bit more of it. So basically, what we do is that we put the customer at the center of the creation process. And what they do is when they open an online briefing, they have a guided system to help them really express all their needs. And we also must remember that some of our fragrances, some of our customers are new to the fragrance world, so they also might not know exactly what they need or what they want. So we guide them in a very easy way to express everything, to put everything out on the table, let's say. And then all that precious information is backed by our data. So we have data about markets, about target consumers, about age. So this is infused with the customer's needs. And then comes the human part. So we have perfumers, we have scent experts, we have marketing specialists, and we also add all our knowledge. So let's say that the result is a fragrance that is really empowered, because it's not only creation and inspiration, it has more. It's boosted by artificial intelligence, data, and all this knowledge. So this explains a little bit this guided customer-centric flow that we have.
Great. That was detailed and a bit more, understanding of how you work. But I think it's time to immerse ourselves in our business case, which is not a business case, it's a human story, and it's with Danielle. So really, first of all, tell us, what's the story? What's your brand story?
Okay, nice to be here, and thank you for including me in this, and it's wonderful to speak about our partnership so far. To explain a little bit about my brand, Rhodes, which has been around since 2013. So, as mentioned before, the project that just happened just before I started Rhodes was that I set up our National Theatre Academy in Dublin, so with the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. And when we were creating that was 11 years ago. It's actually had a bit of recent success with its first Oscar nomination of one of our alumni, so we're very proud. Very proud. But during that time when we were building it, we had many opportunities because it was a new structure. So we said, is there a possibility to create a sensorium? Is there a way to watch theatre with scent involved? So if you were watching a play, could you include the smell of cooking or cut grass or a forest, for example, depending on the play that you were watching? And we found actually in our test cases with this that people were incredibly connected to what they were watching if a scent was included. They were more tied to it, they understood what was happening, and they became, evoked a lot of emotion in them. So the brand sort of started from that point because I realized that, well, scent was sort of the unspoken and underestimated tool in storytelling. So this is where it began. It turns out it's a lot more difficult in theatre to include scent, but it brought me on my journey first to Rhodes and start bringing that. So the beginning of Rhodes, and because it has its basis anchored in storytelling and theatre, we've always based our fragrances on themes. We take a theme. So one of our fragrances, for example, is called Harmattan. It's based on a fragrance, it's based on a wind, actually, a real wind that crosses the Sahara every year. It's an incredibly powerful wind that actually transports sand all the way to the Amazon. It's amazing. So what we would do normally is to try and list the characteristics of this wind and then try and connect them in some way to ingredients. This was a sort of a new way of approaching, and when you're sitting in one geographical space all the time, it was a way of inspiring a completely new set of ideas or inspiration around a fragrance. So our background has always been to try and find different fragrances. I mean, that was 11 years ago, and we still do this, where we now have 18 fragrances and 4 candles, and all of them have been based on different themes. So I think this is an interesting point before we start talking about the connection with Scentmate as to why it was so important to utilize our technology in something that was a very subjective but specific brief from our point.
Great. So what I want to ask, because now we understood that you discovered the magic of scents, you unleashed it,
Yes.
but then you needed somebody to help you
Yes.
in that process. So, and you were facing that challenge because that by yourself you couldn't do it.
Sure.
So why, I mean, how did Rhodes chose Scentmate? How did this click happen?
It's sort of happened quite organically, and I must say that with a lot of our other fragrances, we work with some of the best perfume houses in the world, and we adore our partnerships with them, and they have created unbelievable fragrances for us. But working with Firmenich was always felt like a natural evolution and something that we always wanted to explore properly. And actually, this whole timeline has been about a year. A year ago, I was introduced to the very wonderful Jerry Vittoria through a friend and a mutual colleague. And around that time, unbeknownst to me, our teams were meeting here at a Essence at the same moment, so it was sort of a happy coincidence. But as our conversations, my conversations with Jerry sort of developed a little bit further, trying to understand exactly what the best fit was and understanding what the brief was going to be, I understood and learned a little bit more about Scentmate, and I actually felt that this was a much more interesting fit for us because of a number of different reasons. Now, I knew it was a new concept, but I was very much drawn to this idea of using technologies. Like I said, our briefs are very specific, our themes. So normally I give myself a huge amount of time because obviously it's very subjective. There's a lot of variations. Not to say that the fragrances are bad, but it's just maybe not exactly what you were hoping for. So normally the process of a fragrance can take a little while. So this was sort of intriguing to me that we could use this to do something a little bit faster.
An acceleration factor.
An acceleration factor, exactly, which is always good. Time is the one thing that we don't have. So, I mean, that was definitely a part of it. But then also, it suited us because Scentmate was smaller, a smaller machine. It meant that it was more adaptable. It meant that it had a much more hands-on approach. And the fact that, it felt like a very true equal partner that could be flexible for things that we needed immediately or changes or adapting. So for us, and also that I feel like I can pick up the phone at any time and just have a quick chat. So for efficiency, for time, and also the curiosity in me to say, how would this work with AI, which I'm finding is an incredibly more and more useful tool in my life anyway, got the best of me. So I guess that's where it came about.
Before I ask Vito another question, now that you talked about the timeline and acceleration factor, give us just a feel, from brief to finish, how long did that take?
So like I said, the teams met here last year, and then I think the brief was given over by June, I think, late June 2022. What are we, 23? 22? Yep. Just checking. And then we had briefs back, I think, by July. We signed off November, I think, and then we had fragrance delivered to us by February. So it was, you know, what I was surprised at, again, I had sort of factored in a much longer period of, which has always been the case with me, a much longer period for variations and back and forth and discussing, and a lot of the way we would work to try and describe a theme that we wanted is to use pictures and news articles or entire mood board that we might find relevant to try and communicate as a client to the perfumer to say, no, this is very specific and this is what we need. So all in all, a year, but we were so impressed with the first initial briefs that were given, or the initial fragrances that were sent to us, that I was totally blown away. So, you know, there were so many that weren't just incredibly beautiful fragrances, but they were so correct emotionally for what we were trying to evoke. So it was, yeah, it was very impressive.
Great. So maybe, Vito, you want to add into, you know, what was this process you went through with the brand?
Yes, we'll, so first of all, thanks, Danielle, for the kind words. Being the leader globally of Scentmate, this is really what we are here for, really, to try to make the life of our customer easier and better every day. And the important thing about Scentmate, and sometimes there is this misunderstanding on our project, is that we do exactly, and we are here to do exactly what Danielle has just described, which is connect your brief and your preferences with an outcome, which is the product that is created according to your needs. Of course, using our ingredient, using our capabilities, using artificial intelligence to help, but according to your needs. We do not sell just collection. You do not enter into a platform and pick one collection out of a menu. This is not Scentmate. If you are looking for that, we are probably not the best partner. We are here to receive your brief, the customer brief, work them together with you using our tool and transform them in an outcome. Yes, we also have some collection, because we all in this industry have some collection to inspire other kind of creation, but this is not the model. The model is not to give you something that comes out of a list of ready-to-market fragrances. The purpose of Scentmate is to create what you want with the time, the quantity, and the benefit that you ask us to do. And we will continue to work until we do that in a perfect way.
Okay, so we've heard Vito say we don't sell collections, we sell unique creations. So I think that's an important statement to bring back home, because it really explains the process. I'm going back to you, Danielle, because I need to ask you, okay, tell us about the brief. Now that we have an idea of the product, before we smell it, tell us about what you had in mind.
Sure. Well, just before I kind of go into this particular fragrance, I wanted to say that also the AI element is a tool for communicating the brief, from my understanding. Yes. What we're still dealing with is you're still working with Firmenich perfumers. You know, it is still that level of craftsmanship. It's just the connection between the understanding of what is required and what is understood is shortened, which is just efficient, as I said. So this brief is up here, yes, is called Beautiful People. So this fragrance was, again, like where this had started, was at the time of the brief, I was living in Mallorca after COVID. We had decided to go and live with extended family that we hadn't seen for a very long time. And it was an incredibly beautiful time of connection with family and a sense of togetherness again, I guess, that most of us felt emptied from after 2 or 3 years of isolation and everything else. And it dawned on me during this time of the incredible importance of those very special people in your lives. They are the golden elements. They're the only important things, the people that make you laugh, the people that are there for everything. So I wanted to try and create, and again, it's very subjective. What you feel may be the emotional interpretation of that may be different to me, but my interpretation of it, which is only, these themes are only ever supposed to be a working brief anyway, was this idea of love, happiness, gratefulness, simple enjoyments. And at the time, like I said, I was in Mallorca as well, so I was interested to try and bring in elements of the island as well. At that time, sort of saying the feeling of highness of the fun and the attitudes of it. So we gave the brief in the normal way to Scentmate, and again, I was sort of curious to say, okay, well, this is my normal brief. Very detailed. I mean, we had a couple of little things, but they received a huge document with lots of pictures and things and everything, and very, very specific to see if they could try and understand what was trying to be created here. And I think that again, like I mentioned before, the submissions were amazing. And not only did they get the brief of saying, okay, here's one element of what you feel like when you're included in love and family. There was one version of it, but there was also 3 others that could have easily been the same idea as well. And what I was so fascinated about this was how they were able to understand and identify the emotional, the AI emotional need for what we were trying to do. So, but actually, will we pass them around now? No. Okay. Oh, we'll do it in a bit.
No, I wanted to say one thing, because I think you might think, oh, it's a perfume inspired when, Danielle was in Palma de Mallorca, so Spain, but it's just a coincidence, because, afterwards you've done other perfumes, and it's, it has nothing to do with the Spanish, background. I think this scent, the way you describe it, above all, it's a celebration of life.
Yes.
So you could have done it in another,
absolutely,
in another setting. Yeah. And Spain is just a coincidence, but it's just funny. So I don't know, Simona, you wanted to add maybe a little thing about?
Yes, with pleasure. So indeed, when we received Danielle's briefing, we were really surprised, because she gave us so many inputs, and they were also very personal. Like all her creations, she really puts a part of herself in it. So, as perfumery marketers, what we want to do is to deep dive even more in the concept. And we worked with Marie Hugentobler, which is our perfumer and creative director, on this fragrance. And she wanted us to really go to a sensorial trip, let's say, to Mallorca, to bring out elements, olfactive elements that would help us really create this fragrance. So what we did is that we went to Mallorca, let's say, and this island, for those who have not been, or I don't know if you love it, but, we really went to the Mediterranean mood. We were getting this idea of breeze with bergamot notes. Bergamot also has the tea leaf facets, the eucalyptus that is also very typical of Mediterranean. So this really refreshing sensation. And then we went more into the fact of being laid back. So we were thinking about what Danielle said, where people connect, where they feel relaxed, they feel free, they feel themselves. And so here we brought in notes like fig, for example, very ripe figs, also flower notes like violets, and this part made it more relaxed, I would say.
Sorry, Simona,
Yes.
I think it's the time to maybe have
Absolutely.
Everybody experience the fragrance.
Absolutely.
Now that you dig in.
That will help you for sure. Go to Mallorca.
The suspense is no longer possible to
Yes.
to keep. I think this is the time. So yeah, just continue, of
yes.
course.
Another aspect is also thinking about the opulent. So usually when we are on holiday, we tend to let ourselves go. And we think that the flower that really represents this sensation is jasmine, at least in the Mediterranean context. So especially in the evening, you know, these lush bushes bloom with a lot of jasmine, and there we brought in this dimension to the fragrance. And a part that struck us was the idea of love. So Danielle said, you know, the connection that I felt with the beautiful people was love, and love in a very universal way, you know. So the fragrance basically has to represent this. And we worked with Marie, and we thought that the dimensions of amber would recreate this warmth. So we have like warm amber, we have a more mineral amber, and then of course sandalwood and patchouli. So this is what stays, you know, in the base notes, and it's the message like love, you know, stays on your skin. So overall, it was lovely working on this project. It really had us dreaming. It was so creative, so inspiring. And yes, now we can't wait also to hear from those who are going to use beautiful people, you know, to hear from them.
So now I think it's interesting. You heard the creative ideas behind and how the marketing team handled the brief. But now, I mean, we have Andrea here, and she's here for a good reason. She's also going to tell you how she worked with the brief from her own perspective and her own expertise.
Yeah, also to bring a little bit of data on this creative process. So at the end, what we aimed to be doing with beautiful people was really to creating a highly renewable fragrance that was also containing 8 essential oils, 10 upcycled ingredients, and that the process to be sourcing these ingredients was really having a reduced impact on carbon emissions and water consumption. Not only this, but it was also important that there was this social component, so this commitment with communities. That's why it contains ingredients really sourced through these responsible practices that are certified, and also some ingredients that have a specific geographical origin, so having this full traceability on the full process.
Great. So we also hear from you what the sustainability chapter, you know, is and how it belongs to the project as well. So you have creativity, compliance, sustainability, and high quality ingredients, which is going back to the initial slide that we had before. But okay, in a life of a brand, you know, this is one project, beautiful people, but you know, life goes on and there's new projects. So now I think it's interesting to hear where you're going. Plus your name, the brand name is called Roads. So which road have you taken? You know, straight ahead. You know, tell us more than that.
Sure. So, I mean, I would encourage you all and invite you all to come and smell our range. Like I said, it's up at E33, because all of our fragrances are incredibly different from each other. So this is one idea, but you know, every single one of them is standalone for a purpose, because I think it's an idea that you have to find something that suits you. You know, we can't have, you know, a couple and say, okay, well, we hope that you find something. There's definitely something within our brand that suits everybody. And that was always the idea that I wanted from the beginning, to be democratic, that you could say that there'll always be something that you will find that belongs to you. But the next brief, because of course I was excited to go, okay, what next? What else can we do? So I gave them another brief, Scentmate, to challenge them on a completely different scent. I mean, it's a candle scent, and we have 4 candles that are very different from this already out. They're incredibly strong, powerful fragrances. And this one was based on a Coleridge poem of Kubla Khan and Xanadu, and this sort of idea of somewhere between like an Indian palace and Hotel California. So I wanted to create something that was very mystical, very intoxicating, very decadent, heavier, and gave a brief to that. And again, I was super impressed with the submissions that came back. I mean, they understood it straight away. I think I'm making it too easy for them. But, you know, so I was incredibly excited. And I think the future of this means, you know, I am actually curious to see what we could do. I think that, like I said, every one of our fragrances is based on a theme to make them unique from what's in the market. You know, starting with a theme means that you are creating something that no one else is doing, because it's not looking at the rest of the market, it's just looking at you and your theme and seeing how closely you can connect to it. So what I'd love to do is to challenge further and say, okay, well, you know, if we do something based on space, if we did something to say, okay, let's see what we would do around electricity or the ocean or whoever else, you know. So I think there's definitely interesting projects to come, but so far I've found it incredibly invigorating and efficient, and you know, it's so nice to be so readily understood from a creative perspective, because I think that's sometimes you compromise. Sometimes you say, okay, well, it's, you know, it's 80% there, and that's okay, but actually it's not, and that's why it has taken me so long with development in the past. So that's why the future, I'm quite excited to see what we can do together.
So Daniel, to sum it up, sorry, Vito, I would say that it takes two to tango.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like you are...
It takes 10.
Yeah. You're pushing each other both ways, so it sounds great. And now back to you, Vito, absolutely. It's your turn to tell us more about the future.
Challenge accept, for sure. We have to continue to keep the bar high. We cannot... for sure, plan for lowering the service. This is what we are doing, and this is what we are committed to continue to do. So count on us to keep the level high and to keep the bar high, and of course we'll do our best, and you will judge. Never accept a 90% from us.
Never. I never do anyway.
So Danielle has told us, you know, which project she has in mind. Maybe I may ask Simona, what are you working on? You know, what's your future or your current project that will be tomorrow?
Well, let's say that on the marketing side, we have two big projects that we're working on. One is to proactively inspire our customers. So, of course, we are happy to receive briefings, but we also want to give back, you know, so we really try to be ahead of the game with olfactive, new, fresh, experimental trends. And we have a format called Scent Alert. So basically every 2 months, we send out a nice presentation where we provide new olfactive directions, inspiration on packaging, colors, examples from the market, also from other countries. And this, it's a like give and take with our customers. We've recently done one connected also to Viva Magenta, Color of the Year. We target, for example, Gen Z. So now they're the new target and they have specific taste in olfactive directions. So there is a lot that we can inspire with. And the other part is to give access to the huge amount of consumer market data that we have. Often our customers don't think that maybe niche is connected to data, but it really is in the end, because you want to create something peculiar, but you want the audience to like it, a wide audience. So also there, in niche creations, data can really bring a big plus. And these are the two fronts where we're working on at the moment.
Sounds very exciting. I want to know more about the Gen Z specific tastes.
Stay tuned.
But now to you, Andrea, same thing. I mean, same question. What are your projects, your hot projects?
I will follow Simona's example, and I also tell about two of them. So for us also, advancing to the perfumery of the future is about having this strong commitment with naturality, sustainability, and biodiversity. That's a little bit how we've been really putting in place all these initiatives that allow us not to really have these best practices, but to really engage customers with them. So to really share this compromise, this commitment to go towards a better future. And the other one is super interesting, and I wanted, again, to bring some data on it. Very curiously, 73% of consumers expect brands to be embracing more the wellness dimension. So yeah, as we are looking into how to deliver these wellness benefits, fragrance really seems to be the perfect vehicle to be embracing wellness. And here I'm coming back to the technology that I've been sharing at the very beginning. So this emotions fragrance technology that is able to elicit feelings in the end customers, really sustained through fMRI, so functional magnetic resonance imaging, and a proprietary questionnaire that Firmenich owns to really be able to prove, to have the scientific evidences that this fragrance technology is actually able to elicit feelings of energizing, happiness, relax, and much more. So something really related with innovation and with the future of perfumery.
So a compliance expert also embraces that side. That's quite impressive. No, but seriously, there's a lot on your side. I mean, on your shoulders. It's very interesting. And now, I think it's a kind of a conclusion question. But I'd like to ask every one of you if you had to pick just a few words, like let's say 3 words, to define your mission. Which one would you give? Danielle?
3,
Yep.
I would say anything is possible. Yeah.
Okay. And you, Vito?
I would say future is now.
Nice.
Don't wait for it.
I would say we empower you. Do I need to comment?
No, that's
We
that's
empower
fine.
you.
And you, Andrea?
That's super challenging because you've already picked all the good ones.
Sorry.
But actually, I would be saying fragrances with benefits, clean and green, and technologies. Yeah, why not?
Nice. So yes, we've been pretty accelerated today, but I think now it's time for you to shoot questions to all of us. Also, you had the experience of smelling a perfume with this powerful technology behind, with this specific brief. Tell us, I don't know who wants to start. So your question is for Danielle, did I understand? Like it's too perfect to be true? Is that the question?
It's two things. First, I cannot know the good people from the first second. I need to go through things with them to understand it. So I need to smell this like for 2 or 3 days to read the whole story, to understand it. This is one. And two, when I think about good people in my life, like when I was younger, I wanted perfect people. But then I realized that good people in my life are not perfect. They have their own problems. And now I'm trying to find where is the problem in this because it smells like perfect.
Well, it sounds that we've awakened your curiosity and we, we pushed a button, which is good.
Myself, I studied film and writing, and I also do perfumery, so I understand where the idea came from. So here where the question.
But Danielle?
Yeah, I think I can answer that because, like I said at the beginning, the themes are not supposed to take over. They're working briefs. The idea is that there shouldn't be too much about them because when someone takes a fragrance, it becomes theirs. They associate it with their own memories, their own interpretations and how and when they wear it. So this is just meant to be to create a different space of something new. And I think in that light, they're not meant to be literal. They're, like I said, if we were doing that with Harmattan or another fragrance that we have called Bitter End, which is all based on the west of Ireland, that's a very specific smell, hard to capture, and not necessarily always lovely smells that you're trying to get something literal. So it's not meant, it's supposed to be the emotional interpretation of something. So from that point, for me, it was meant to be perfect because that feeling is perfection of a pure, contented happiness where is, like I said, does feel like a high. It does feel like nothing else is needed. So we do have other fragrances that have, you know, a little more funk in them somewhere, and you're like, oh, something else is going on here, a little story at the back. But for this, actually, because it's like I said, emotional connection, it was meant to be this pure note, this moment of nirvana, just happy, just silver lining.
The
exactly.
aha moment.
The life is good moment. And why is it good? Because of these beautiful people that are in your life and may have always been in your life. You know, your ordinary friends that without them, you know, life is very different. So I think it's those when you suddenly realize and appreciate and everything becomes really clear, you're like, I adore you and I'm so grateful for you. And it is a perfect moment. So yeah, it works like that. Yeah. But again, it's only supposed to be it's my working brief, but yes.
Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah.
It was really helped, you know, give more depth to. Yes.
I just wanted to know, I don't think I need the mic, but can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so how does Scentmate work and how does it link emotion with ingredients? Like what are the studies involved?
Is it?
I can take this one. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Indeed, super interesting question. So it's a little bit this mystery behind. But at the end, what's the most important is that it's really linked and backed up by data. So what it was done at the end is really studying these brain activation patterns in a series of participants while building an olfactometer with an fMRI associated, which was related with an event-related function, which was able to deliver up to 28 different odorants. So at the end, what does it mean? It means that whilst some odorants were released inside the functional magnetic resonance imaging, the brain activity and therefore the changes in the blood pressure of the brain were monitored. And that was really giving us the opportunity to see which was the area of the brain that was activated. But that was not all of it. It was followed up by a questionnaire, so it's a patented methodology that is proprietary from Firmenich. That is also one of the scientific words of, very well known in the industry to link emotions with smells. And that this allowed to have a confirmation of which was actually the emotion that people was linking with that smell. If there was a correspondence between these two things, so actually the monitoring of the brain activity when that smell was delivered with what the participants in the test were saying, then we could establish this match between the technology and the motion itself. So,
It's like Phantom, the Pacaro band. Is it similar? Like it used the same kind of technology? I think augmented intelligence or something with the ingredients were chosen that help in, I don't know, creating, it's the wellness trend basically with citrus, lavender, vanilla. That's how they make the fragrance based on this, correct? It's similar?
I mean,
It's similar, I think.
it's not the same, I would say, but at the end, this is it's a trend to really be monitoring the brain activity through different sciences. At the end, fMRI is the most common one, but actually, how to establish this link is the most challenging part.
Yeah, maybe I can also join on your question, which is interesting, because there are two different aspects. Like you can create, let's say, a feeling with using some olfactive notes that are linked to, you know, a sensation, let's say. So maybe it's the case that you're mentioning. But in our case, it's even deeper because it's a claim. So it's really like scientifically proven and you can claim it also on the packaging. So it like elicits happiness feelings. It really becomes, we call it a hard claim. This is maybe a little bit the difference.
So you have like scientific data backing that you can claim this.
Yes.
It can make you happy.
Exactly.
Yes. We know that there are two components of that, which is part of also your question is, and sorry for jumping in, is one piece is the how I can help my final customer, which is all the brands we work with, not only to say, okay, this fragrance give that additional benefit, but also to be able to claim that. And to allow a brand to claim something, you need the data and the studies that support that claim. And this is very important. And to do that, you have to follow what Andrea said. You cannot say, okay, I think this does that. Okay, thank you, keep it for you, but do not claim on your product. Then there is the other part of the equation, which is how we use artificial intelligence to link a brief to a final product. And the way is, a brief in the end is what the customer wants to receive, that is then associated to an olfactive description. We often have different olfactive description of something, and then thanks to the artificial intelligence and the work of our perfumers, because again, they go hand in hand, we translate this olfactive creation in the best fragrance that can solve that olfactive creation description. And we usually do not associate just one fragrance, because we know this is a subjective work, it's not a perfect, we associate all the best fragrance that are close enough to that. How we do that in detail, I cannot tell, because it's proprietary information, and this is what is really different at Scentmate and at Firmenich in the way we are changing the creative process.
You're welcome. Anybody else? The gentleman, and then we come back to you.
I'm not sure if I need the mic, but
I think it's okay.
it's fascinating technology, but it kind of sounds like that even with like how advanced AI technology's gotten over the past few months, will that kind of have a concern that we may remove the kind of personality from the job of the perfumer? Because if we have data from the brain to be able to understand like even the neurotransmitter levels, how that will then affect a future project.
This is the question I love the most, and I'm not scared at all to answer, because I mean really what I'm going to say. Technology and artificial intelligence are not here to replace what people do, are just a tool, and I consider them a tool to help human beings, people, to do a better job, or to do it quicker, or to do it faster. At Scentmate, just to give you a very live example, at the center there is the team I am honored to lead. Is our perfumer, is our marketing people, is our here you're not seeing a robot talking to you, here and you're seeing technology coming out of the mic. People are always at the center, and they will always be. Then, why not using tools that help our life? Man, people, woman, whoever has done this forever. We have improved the way we live our lives using innovation. This is what we want to do. For me, and I'm a business person first, I'm not a digital expert. I use digital to improve the outcome of what I'm trying to do, and I hope to be able to do that. Technologies and innovation are always the how. It's never the what. The what and what is at the center is the people and the human creation. Then we add tools to do that. And sometimes, most of our process is very traditional and we use very little of technologies. Other time is fully accelerated. It depends on the complexity of the brief and the fit to the final product. What we do not compromise is the fit to the brief. The how we get there is where we want to make our life easier and also more affordable for all of us.
I just want to add to Vito's point, because your question is the one that I asked to perfumers. I was lucky enough to be in Paris and to have meetings with senior perfumers in the Firmenich head office. And I thought I would ask this question to trigger some kind of, moment where they would release to me their frustration level with technology, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. They're just going to start, complaining or just sharing some, a bit of negative points. And actually they didn't, because they just said a little bit, with their own words, at least those that I asked, they said, it's a tool. I use a tool, why not use it? But they were happy doing their work and using new technologies, and actually quite curious about, even though they're senior in age and, mastership of their skill, all of them, at least the two I interviewed, they were super adaptable and actually very curious. And they really don't want to leave it to the younger ones in the office. That's for sure. They want to show that they're on top of it and they can use it and get there, and it doesn't take anything away from their, I would say, prestige. That's what I understood. So yeah, they were like, yeah, let's use it. So, but it's a good question because it can be, it can create a heated debate. So there was a question here.
Thank you. My name is Esther. Thank you very much for all your insights. I'm a truly believer about the power of the sense. It's the most powerful of all the senses we have. And I truly like the approach of having this holistic brief to create the scent that is it's not a catalog, as you mentioned, it's personalized. My question is, how do you manage the fact that besides the emotional benefits of a particular scent, there is also this emotional component? And as Danielle pointed, everybody understands one emotion in a different way. So the perception of happiness for a person living in a certain part of the world might be totally different for someone that from childhood has been exposed to other scents that bring them these memories of happiness. So when you're launching a concept or a scent that is meant to be global, how do you put all this together to create something that can be appealing to a rich audience?
I think maybe Danielle, you want to say something, because this was something we discussed during the preparation of the panel, that you had in mind, the fact that your brand was global, but yet you wanted to create experiences that were universal.
Absolutely. I mean, and like I said before, this has to be, these are working briefs, so this had to be something that was still characteristics that can't get interrupted by my own interpretation always. Sometimes they do, and you're entitled to sort of creatively influence things in a certain way. But I think when we are doing briefs, I think they are universal. They're intended to be. When we set up the brand, the idea was that they could sell everywhere and work with everyone. I mean, the idea of that it's so open to all age groups. It's completely genderless, everything else like that. So absolutely, I agree with you that your brief, and when we're giving a brief, I have that in mind to say, I can't selfishly say, oh well, happiness smells to me like blah 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 because I grew up in these places and that's what I associated with. So of course, I'm very conscious of it, because at the end of the day, it's still a brand that needs to go out there and sell and needs to be understood by other people. So that could be great for something that I wear personally and is only for me, but we're very, very conscious of that. So I think that's as much on me, on my brief, as it is to the interpretation of the perfumer, of course. I mean, I think that goes for any brand and any brief given to a perfumer. So they say, okay, is this something that's going to
I understand from a brief point of view. I was just more on the scientific part. I mean, knowing that there is...
Then it's Simona who needs to complement your question. Yeah.
Actually, I also love this question, because before I mentioned the 50 years of consumer olfactive preferences that we have this huge database. So this really refers to what you're asking. So over time in Firmenich, all this knowledge has been saved, and each market has olfactive preferences. And we also keep studying them. So there is a part of our job that is called marketing intelligence. And we really buy products from the market. We smell them. We also do surveys. So we know, which are the most familiar notes to consumers in each country. And then, of course, if the briefing is global, we try to, put these things all together. And we support our perfumers with this, with the data. Some of this is already inside the algorithm. Can I say this, Vito? So in the algorithm, it's already infused with this consumer market data, and that's how it also helps. Does that respond? Thanks.
There was another question to finish. The gentleman over there.
I don't think I need a mic.
Okay.
My question is directed at Danielle.
Okay.
How, because I know you have a lot of experience, sending briefs to maybe brands like Firmenich, and maybe other brands send briefs to different, houses, different perfume houses. Now, Scentmate is a division of Firmenich, right? But how would you rate the interpretation of your briefs using AI compared to the traditional approach? What is key to you? What's the most significant attribute of your scent? What is the result? Is it the results you're after? In essence, is it the result in terms of the economic benefits, or is it the result in terms of the creativity?
I think it's a good question, and because I would rate them equally in regards to the final product, because I would be very specific about, what would be released, and all the fragrances needed to be, that I've done in the traditional way in the past, have always had to be 100% before releasing them. It took longer, of course, because the creative process meant that it was longer. But for me, it's never been about the economical element of it, probably to my own demise. But actually, that was never the intention. I wanted it to be a creative process. And sometimes there's fragrances that we've put out that I've thought, okay, this is very, very special to me. It's very unique. I've never smelled anything like it. I wish it well. I hope it does well. I don't know. And actually, there are fragrances that have done sometimes the best because they are the ones that are incredibly unique to the market. And I think, like Vito said before, first of all, we don't know what it is economically, because this is the first one that we've done and it's only about to go out to the market, so to be seen. But that was never the intention, to say, okay, let's create something that the market through AI is going to say that it's perfect, because that wasn't in the interest for me. The interest for me was to see how technology could understand the brief. So I kind of forgot about that in a way. When receiving the first variations, I just took it as a normal way. It just happened to come in very, much quicker than I expected to. I was like, okay, we're going to have some, and then we're going to work on it. It's going to go back and forth for a few months, and that's fine. But that was what I was surprised at. So I kind of took all the technology part out of my head and just took it as if it had come in from anyone else. And I think that standard was very high, actually. And it was a very subjective brief. Like some of the briefs before are more helpful. They're less emotional sometimes. If like I said, something like the wind one, it's much more, it lends itself more to more specific interpretation, where if I'm saying this is about love and this is about inclusion and about friends and family, it's a very open concept. So I think just in simple terms, their process, I gave the brief in, they worked it in this new way, which is fascinating to me. And they sent back variations that I was so impressed with. And I think that's, I don't think it ever came from a ticking the boxes of saying, I hope this is success. It was always still going through me.
Because I recall a while ago you talked about your interpretation of Hamatan.
Yeah.
Which is a West African climate experience. And my thinking is, Scentmate, does it shorten the timeline of the process of the brief interpretation of the brief, or does it more accurately capture the experience of the Hamatan?
I think it's that. I think it can more accurately understand what I'm saying in the brief. I think that's the part of it. No, it's not the timeline. I think the timeline means that the first variations were very impressive, and normally they're 90% there for me. And I think it's taking me as a human in my limited way that I can give a brief, and then it's adding so many more elements to my brief for them to work on, I think is the way I have understood it to be.
So the final question for the gentleman.
For Vito.
Scentmate, right? Do you create new molecules in the process of introducing briefs?
Great question. So what we do, we create new formulas. Some of these formulas includes new technologies, new innovation, new molecules, and this is what we do in partnership with Firmenich. Where Scentmate is very fortunate, I would say, is that we have Firmenich, we are by Firmenich, and I mean we are by Firmenich, and we are not a second, we are by Firmenich, so we use all the innovation, all the capabilities, all the R&D, all that investment, and then we just try to do the best possible work with that, thanks to our people and the artificial intelligence and the algorithm that we use. And it's an exchange. Firmenich, of course, starting to use a lot of what we bring, thanks to data. So it's really a two-way process.
Thank you very much. Excellent questions. I think all of you had a different angle, but it allowed more detailed information and explanation. So thank you, all of you. This is the end of the session. And yes, if you want to engage more with Danielle and see her later, she's at Aix-en, above. Well, not today, but tomorrow or the day after. Yes. Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.